Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Good morning, Glenn.
Hey, Mikey, how you doing this morning?
You know what? I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking.
You know, I love these bright and early recording sessions, which are really in the coffee shop. In the corner of the coffee shop, we always get a nice extra large coffee.
Extra large.
Extra strong, extra large. It's great.
Double espresso.
Yeah, I love sitting having coffees with you, man, and just exploring some different topics and tips on the sharing them back and forth on the sober path of recovery.
I love doing it. I love being in the coffee shop. You know, we're hey, and listen. By the way, for those that want to thinking about doing their own podcast, don't steal the coffee shop idea, but
go ahead.
Yeah, right. But Audio Hive, right? How about a little shout out to Audio Hive this morning?
Yeah, Brian the engineer, man. Brian's the podcast barista, and Brian, really appreciate it, man.
I won't let you use the coffee shop background, but I will make you coffee still.
All right. Sold, my friend, sold.
Brian makes good coffee.
Yeah. So even if you have to travel a couple miles, come to Joliet and check it out. It's great studio.
Totally. And for those of you out there that are listening and want to reach out to the podcast, feel free. We'd love hearing from you. It's our email address is podcast@sober.coffee. And totally anonymous. I know some email addresses have people's names in them. We keep them all to ourselves. We certainly will protect your anonymity. So, all right, Mikey. So, hey, we don't, from my perspective, I go to a lot of meetings just like you do. And man, I just never hear a lot of original stuff, right? We churn and rechurn, if that's even a word, just a lot of similar sayings. And, but, our session here today is a combination of a couple things. One is a new saying that I heard. It just kind of smacked me, man, because it really, really hit me. And then secondly, a topic that you've been talking about. And as soon as we say the word, people are going to shrink up.
Sure. Right?
People are going to go, oh no. And some people may even log off.
Right.
Just because it's an uncomfortable word. So the phrase that I heard is, if nothing changes, nothing changes.
If nothing changes, nothing changes.
And, we hear the phrase, the definition of insanity. Hey, if we keep doing the same thing over and over again, you expect different results, right? And really, if you do the same thing over and over again, you're probably going to get the same results, right? So that's why I love, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And then, you've been talking lately about change, right? And change is a word that, at one point in my career, I was a change agent for a, major public company. People hated me. They saw me coming, they shrunk away because people don't like change. Change is a tough word. But I know through my own story and through your story, as we, delved into the path of sobriety, things had to change.
Right. A lot of things had to change.
Yeah.
Right?
So we've had some chats, Mikey and I, and a lot of times these podcasts we have 3 bullet points, right, and really launch us off. I think Mikey's got 17 pages of notes here, so we're probably going to break the 18-minute rule.
I think I'm guessing we're going to go a little past it. So
yeah. So what we'd like to do is just walk through, Mike's, kind of path of change.
Right.
As I like to say, it's, I had to learn how to live as a left-hander. I had to change from being a right-hander to a left-hander, and for me, inside my head, that really works, right? Because that talks to the brain, it talks to how I look at things, and it talks to just how hard it is. I did not go to a 28-day rehab and come out as a brand new person. Just did not. So, Mikey, I am looking forward to digging into your 17 pages of notes and just kind of getting some insights on on change.
All right, you got it, my friend. Well, thank you very much. This has been, you're talking about learning how to live left-handed, right? And I'm taking a slightly similar but slightly different bent on that. I had to change in my life to learn how to play the game of life. I had. What I had done for years was I played by my rules that I established, and we've talked about them in recent podcasts. And the lack of accountability, the lack of discipline in my life that I just allowed to run amok. And look, I was listening to some of the podcasts that we put together just to make sure that we're sending the right message. And my life was not a total disaster, right? So when I say, things run amok, my life wasn't 24/7 a disaster. It was pretty disastrous at the end of my drinking career, right? Drugging career. But I had some real beauties in my life, and I realized that those beauties, there was times where I had parameters in my life. Maybe either I was, I had a bit of a purpose in my work, or I had a purpose in my family. Right, a new kid will create some barriers. I know you like to call them guardrails, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
And but the other thing I wanted to bring up at the beginning here is, I think that for me anyway, COVID was a forced change, right? So the pandemic caused the whole nation and all its people to change their normal course of life. And it was really uncomfortable at first, not being able to walk into a store, then being able to walk in a store with a mask. What the rules were changing every day. I guess my point is that happened to me. Mm-hmm. My sobriety was a direct result of my decision to stop digging. Right, to stop digging and to stop that chaotic and downward spiral. And you're right. I heard that term. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And boy, you nailed it on the head. I mean, that scared me. I wanted to log off of the meeting that I was in. Right? You're right. You're 100% right.
It's that C word.
It's the C word.
Change.
Right. But, I liken it to golf. There is...
Uh-oh.
I know, here we go.
Oh,
4?
Come on,
4?
man.
I liken it to golf. There's, really it's an ebb and flow swing that happens. But for some, it's a natural transition to pick up a club and hit a little tiny white ball. For others, it's a bit of a struggle. And so you go to and you've had some experience in this, Glenn, but you go to a
I'm
golf
in the middle
pro.
of it right now.
I
just took a golf lesson.
Right.
So no, but I totally get it, because I have, totally coincidentally, I have 2 sponsees that are pro ball players. And when we go to Top Golf, for our social bonding events, they could hit a broom handle. Mm-hmm. 310 yards. I mean, straight in. I mean, they are just smooth swings. And there's some of us, like me, that really has to really consciously break it down and work at it. And I'm getting a feeling that's what we're going to do here.
That's exactly what we're going to do. In golf, I did a little research, and there is roughly 19 elements to a golf swing, or to the golf swing. And it's everything from these, alignment, targeting the ball, your stance, the club facing, positioning, right? You got your feet, you got your head, you got your chin, you got your eyeball. All these things you need to be thinking about goes onto your posture, your back, your knees, your arms, your elbows, your wrists, your shoulders, your hips. My goodness, it's overwhelming to somebody who this isn't a natural thing for. And so
that's complicated, man.
I know.
No wonder I have a problem.
It sounds complicated and scary, but if you keep if you focus on each one of these areas and you go out to the driving range and you keep practicing, by the time you hit the golf course, it becomes more of a natural response to the training that you put forth. And not so ironically, I came up with about 19 things, Glenn, that have changed in my life, since I became sober. And they were all areas that as important as having your wrist positioned the right way in a golf swing, they're small areas, but if you focus on them and you practice them, just speaking for myself, it's changed It's changed my life in a positive way, but it's changed that I had to take out to the driving range.
Yeah, so that's interesting. There's a couple key points there that I'm looking forward to seeing how they process through. And with our podcast, we normally break them down into 3 sections, right? Experience, what happened with us, what was our experience? Strength, what did we do? What steps did we take in the sober gym? I like to laugh because I sure don't go to the real one. And then thirdly is hope, right? What started to happen, what is happening, what happened, or what can we hope to happen in the future from doing those things in the sober gym. So, I'm looking forward, what we could almost do is break down each one into experience, strength, and hope.
Sure, absolutely. Right. And you can almost make a segment out of each one of these because I think they're just that important.
So a 19-part segment?
A 19-part series. But so for those that are not driving, operating a motor vehicle right now, or heavy machinery at work, take a couple of notes. There's about 19 areas that have changed in my life for the better. So in no particular order of importance, I'd like to start with organization. My experience with organization, as I might have used the word already this morning, but my life was chaos, confusion, and clutter, right? And because it was chaos, confusion, and clutter, it really blurred my ability to see what opportunity lied in front of me, and I created that chaos, confusion, and clutter, right? So just like a dirty, a dirty kitchen, I created it. It was my opportunity to clean it up, So where did I find my strength? When I came into the program, I really found my strength in that area of organization of my life, in doing the phrase "doing the next right thing." Right? It just makes sense. So. Cleaning up my side of the street, quite literally, right? So that's a figurative term in the rooms, clean up your side of the street, take care of your emotional baggage, take care of it, right? But I'm saying clean it up physically, organize your life. To me, Glenn, it made a big difference because I was able to at least identify and see the path clearly where I wanted to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so thinking back to my experience, right? Because I focused 100% of my life on drinking, I focused 0% of my life on everything else, right? So when you talk about starting out, I can relate to that. I mean, I had to physically clean up a lot of crap. I had piles of stuff. I had envelopes from this special organization that I had never opened called IRS. Right. That took an effort, right? But I also had some extra time to do that because I wasn't drinking. I was able to. But what I really took out of that first bullet point, organization, what really stuck to me is my life ran me.
Right.
When I was drinking. My life ran me. When I started to become sober, I started to run my life. And part of running my life was doing the next right thing. Purposefully doing the next right thing.
Yeah. No,
so I love that first point. Man, I think you're right. We could do a whole section.
I know, right? Solid. It failed to plan to fail, right? And look, Google's a wonderful tool to help out. You got Google Calendars, Google Tasks. There's a way to get yourself clean. Second one is focus on daily momentum. Again, you pointed out, I was aimlessly drifting.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and now my days are based on my daily reprieve based on my spiritual condition. That's what I learned in the rooms. Is to keep coming back. That's a phrase that they said. Well, what does that mean? It means get on the bike every day. Momentum. Without momentum, I stop and I fell. That's what I did before. I wasn't moving for betterment, so therefore I stopped moving forward and I fell. It's just like riding a bike. You stop pedaling that bike, eventually you're gonna stall and then you're gonna fall. And so momentum to me is an important principle in change because you have to put energy and action into momentum. It's not it doesn't happen naturally unless you're riding downhill, and that's no fun, Glenn.
Yeah, when I think of momentum, right, I think of the, high school or college, science, ball in motion stays in motion, takes energy, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, when I think of momentum, I think of, okay, what's driving that momentum, right? And for me, as I think of what's driving it, what's the fuel, I think of purpose, right? My new sober purpose is an amazing fuel to drive my momentum.
No, that's great, and that's a great segue into purpose. Search my heart and soul and define and live my purpose. That's what I remind myself of every day. When I was out there, my purpose was to get a bottle of liquid or RX. That was my purpose.
I totally get that, and I think for many years my purpose was just to survive. And again, that goes back to my life ran me. I just want to survive. I just want to get through this day. I just want to get some booze enough to make sure I get through the day and not get into too much trouble.
Right.
And so, no, we could do a whole section on purpose because, that is such a driver.
Well, it is, and it's almost like if we go back to the bike analogy. I love it. We got golf analogies going. We got bike analogies, school analogies. We go back to the bike analogy for a moment. Purpose almost is like putting a motor on that bike, right? Because before we were pedaling it, but once you find purpose, and I clearly have a purpose in my life right now. A, it's to stay sober, and B, it's to help the next struggling alcoholic, right? And look, I still have a day job that doesn't count for me helping the next struggling alcoholic. I still work, and I'm a great employee, and I'm a great employee because of this program. But it's like putting a bike on a motor on a bike, because once you find that purpose, and it takes action to figure out what that purpose is. Once you find that action, that motor is doing all the pedaling for you.
Yeah, it's funny. When 2014, when I was in my 4-month program, I actually did a book, right? Because purpose was, I struggled with that. At one point, my purpose was my career, and everything else was secondary. And I used my career to fill my hole in the soul. And, so I'm in this 4-month program. I did this book called The Purpose-Driven Life.
Yeah, great book.
By Rick Warren. And
right.
I think you're supposed to spend
40 days. Right, was it?
Oh, was it 40 days?
I believe so.
So I thought it was 40 weeks, but...
You're on the slow train.
Yeah, I literally did one a day, right? So for 40 days while I'm in there, I did it. And the biggest thing I pulled out of there, which I didn't understand yet because I wasn't on step 12, but the biggest thing I pulled out of there was serving other people. But I certainly get that now, and I have found that when I do something outside of my purpose, I get tired quick. But when I'm doing something that's focused on my purpose, I am amazed at the level of energy and stick-to-itiveness that I have.
Right.
Just amazing.
Yep. And that, again, good segue. Let's jump to the serve till it hurts bullet. That's another thing I had to learn. To me, I was about serving myself. Now, and that's all I served, was my desires when I was out there, and now I learned in the rooms. I learned through reading that giving it away is what gets it for the giver. Right, giving it away is what gets it for the giver. Keeping my serving activities a priority sets the tone for me to focus on not myself, not poor me, not what my goals and desires are, but helping somebody else. It's one of those just weird kind of scenarios in life, of paradox, that the more I help other people, the better off I'm doing for myself.
Yeah, it's funny when people talk about step 12 and serving, and I think I try to serve well beyond step 12. I look at serving as a whole kind of frame for my life, but people are like, well, I'm just new in the program, I can't serve, right? I mean, there's a lot of ways to serve. You can serve the coffee. you can give a ride, to somebody else. You can, pick up the phone when somebody calls you. Or you can make a call to somebody and brighten somebody's day, right? Or, you can clean the frickin' toilet.
Just clean literally.
No, it's so funny because the 2003, when I was in my first rehab, I was in a real posh rehab, and so my temporary sponsor, we were talking about serving, and I'm like, dude, I came here because, private chef, yoga, masters, and I mean, I went to rehab to get served.
Sure.
Right, not to serve. So the guy literally told me, he looks at me, he says, hey, look, here's your next assignment. He goes, I want, and we had two. We had the Pacific Ocean front palace, that I stayed in with a penthouse view. And then there was like the house up on the hill where there were like 30 people staying, and they had like a general kitchen and whatever. And he literally looked at me, he said, take off your fucking Gucci's, which I was offended because I wasn't wearing Gucci's. I was wearing Cole Haans. He said, take off your fucking Gucci's and go up there and scrub that kitchen floor.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, dude, you are out of your mind.
Do you know what I'm paying to stay here?
Dude, you are out of your mind. I'm not doing that. And he goes, I'm telling you. He goes, if you want me to continue being a temporary sponsor, you go do it. And I did it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this can't be what this is about. Mm-hmm. But the funny thing is, it really is.
Right. Yep, love it. So organization, momentum, we talked about purpose, we talked about service. Certainly let's talk about spirituality, right? It's the thing, I had to find a way to grow spiritually. If I had an arrangement, Glenn, with my higher power when I was out there, right? Because I believed in a God. I believed in a power greater than myself. Mm-hmm. I didn't believe he could restore me to sanity at that point, but what I believed was that there was a creator of all earth and heavens, right? And but I had an arrangement with that higher power, and that was, here, if I'm drunk, we're not going to communicate, right? Because that's just embarrassing and is disrespectful to you. Well, guess what, Glenn? I was always drunk, So therefore, I wasn't growing or communicating with my higher power. But there are so many tools that I found out. First of all, I'm sober, so I'm communicating more.
Well, that does help. Like for example, when we sponsor folks, right? Right. And the sponsor calls you up drunk, right? The first thing we're like is like, dude,
that's a great analogy.
This ain't working right now.
Right.
Like, there's no way we're gonna do any positive progress.
How about we talk in the morning?
Right. So I almost pictured God. When I did my foxhole prayers, I almost pictured God rolling his eyes and saying,
"Why don't you give me a call in the morning?
You're drunk.
Yeah.
Call me later.
We'll bring back up.
That's awesome.
And the thing about spirituality, and I've got working with somebody in the program right now, and they're really trying to figure the whole spirituality thing out, right? And we know it's important. We know the 12-step recovery is a spiritually based program, and so they're out there looking at books, and there's look, Amazon, don't forget, they started out just selling books, right? They're still in the book business. There's a million books on there, and Hinduism and you name it, Christianity and voodoo. I mean, there's spiritual. I'm not advocating voodoo but there's spirituality.
I haven't heard that one yet.
I know, right? That's the 15th
No, but I think
step.
the thing with spirituality, and it's great because we have a guest where we are going to do a session on, the program says God as I understand Him, and we're actually going to spin it the other way, and we're say God as I don't understand Him, right? And just really exploring. But I think the basic line for spirituality is, I am not God.
Right, there you go.
And I think if we can get to that point, certainly don't have to believe in your God, don't have to believe in my God. Mm-hmm. You don't have to believe in a God, but it just can't be you anymore. It can't be me anymore. It just has to be something outside of ourselves that can provide direction. And for a long time, I used my sponsor, as a higher power.
Right.
I still do.
Right. Sure. And there's so many tools, I think, that help me find a way to grow spirituality. There are churches to attend. If you're not interested in churches to attend, there are other ways, service projects and small groups, and there's a thing called YouTube. Go check it out. Right?
Oh, I do a lot on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the one thing about spirituality is, I think it's a journey. I think it's a path.
Sure.
It's not a destination. There's a guy in our room that says, look out for the ones that say they're very spiritual, something like grab your money or grab your ass or something like that.
Right. All right, so organization, momentum, we got service, we have purpose, and we have spirituality. Health. Let's talk about health for a second, right? So,
health or help?
Health.
Yeah,
HEAS. And boy, I abused mine.
We aren't going to talk about nutrition and diet, are we?
Well, we're going to talk about fueling your system the right way. Sleep is one of the big ones. Look, almost everybody I run into the program says, "Yeah, I'm doing, just trying to get to sleep. My brain's going a million miles an hour." I thought I was the only one that had a brain going a million miles an hour. It turns out that a lot of alcoholics, their brain goes a million miles an hour, and find a way to get sleep, right? Find a way to get yourself healthy. I had a total disregard for health, but I found through, and this goes a little contrary to other people, but in the program, but I have a sleep aid at night. There are homeopathics out there. Don't
tell me it's Valium.
No. That would be bad. No, nothing that alters my behavior or moods, but
mind-altering meds, right?
Mind-altering meds. Just find a way to get healthy. Find a way to get healthy and stay healthy. It's important to put the right kind of fuel into your system to allow you to continue to grow and serve.
Yeah, so sleep, that is a major key point for me. I am really focused on it. In fact, I got a bruise on the bridge of my nose from my new sleep mask. I'm dealing with sleep apnea issues. But the biggest issue I deal with is what you mentioned. It's waking up at 2 a.m. That mind just goes.
Brain just starts cranking right down the road.
So, quick tip for everybody.
Yes.
Go to YouTube. Search guided meditation.
Okay.
There's thousands of them.
Love it.
The one that I started with was Michelle Sanctuary, and it's Cabin in the Snow.
Beautiful.
And this woman walks you through the woods into a cabin in the snow, and I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what's on your mind. You're picturing yourself at this cabin in the snow, and it's just amazing. And before I know it, I am back asleep.
I love it. All right, so health. Get healthy, stay healthy.
Yep.
One of these other elements of my change was to seek professional support. Again, a lot of people in the program, a lot of people who are sober think they do it on their own. Well, look, I didn't come into this program saying I was ready to do it on my own. There are other people in the rooms that understand me. There are other professionals out there that I think, in my opinion, have been very helpful in my journey because they're professional. They understand mental challenges, and I have a diagnosed disorder. It's ridiculous for me not to go get the help that I need, and I'm very fortunate. I go to a church that preaches that from the pulpit. The professional help is out there. Go find it, seek it, find it, use it.
Yeah, this was a key for me. Well, first of all, when I was drinking, I went to many doctors, and I went the medical route, the medicine route, the pill route, and that just didn't work. I'm not saying that you don't take the right meds with your doctor's advice, your sponsor's advice. When I go through medical situations now, I have a team. I have my wife, I have my sponsor, and my doctor. Everybody knows I'm an alcoholic. Everybody knows my natural tendency is to abuse pills and so I have everybody on the same page. Everybody knows everything, and boy, that's a good guardrail.
Absolutely.
Right? But I found with professional help, when I started going in and being honest with what was going on, I started to get results. And I have a therapist, the doctor, therapist, I call him my coach, right? he has done amazing things for helping me look at things in a different way, right? From just an experience like being a stepdad, right? I had my way of looking at things. He has totally changed and twisted and turned around how I look at things, and I'm getting amazing results from it. So, dude, this is a very important point. But, you know, you got to be honest.
Right.
You know,
and that took change. You know, I love my doctor.
Change,
know, So do you drink, Mike? Sure. Social. How much? Oh, socially. You know, kind of like Ozzy Osbourne takes. You know, his drug socially.
We don't know what Ozzy does.
That's right. All right. So get healthy, stay healthy. Seek professional support. You know, schedule my life around meetings. You know, look, I average a meeting a day. I'm not looking for a pat on my back. I'm not suggesting.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's it.
You might want to step it up.
I know, but you know what? It grounds me in the day. It either is the foundation that launches me off throughout the course of the day, or it's the bookend that closes my day out and reminds me of what I have. And I go to meetings for two reasons, and that is simply, number one, to remind myself where I came from, and then number two, to grow, to find out how to live a better life. But, you know, going to meetings every day, that's so foreign to me because my life was all about isolation and doing it myself. This recovery is now all about community and getting support from people who totally understand me.
Yeah, you know, that's a key point. I probably go to 10 a week. You know, that's about what I go. And years ago, I went to meetings when it was convenient for me. I went to meetings when I could fit it in, when I felt like it, or when I got some extra time, I'll go to a meeting. And I got the result from it. I relapsed. And then finally, when I surrendered, I made the commitment, I'm going to go to meetings. Pre-COVID, I used to go to 3 to 5 meetings a week, in person. Now that I go on Zoom, mostly Zoom, I go to 1 or 2 a week in person. The rest I go on Zoom. You know, it's more convenient, so I go to 10 a week. For me, it's a reminder. For me, it's like plugging in my cell phone.
Right.
My iPhone's a wonderful device, but the thing needs to be plugged in. You know, I'm a wonderful device, but I need to be plugged in to AA, and the quickest way to be plugged in is a meeting, and they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And one thing that I started to click recently is it's like braces. You know, it's like if you have braces and you get your braces off, most people have to wear a retainer. You know, for your teeth to stay straight, to stay fixed, you got to wear a retainer. And if you don't, your teeth go back to how they were.
Right.
The crooked, crappy mess.
That's right.
Right. And that's the same with me. If I don't go to a meeting, the meetings are my retainers. If I don't go to a meeting on a regular basis, hey, you know, I'm not saying tomorrow I'm going to drink, but my behavior, I start the emotional relapse quicker, then I start the mental relapse quicker, and then, hey, if I go long enough, you know, I know for a fact, if I went for a week or two without a meeting, in my brain, I'm saying I can do it differently this time. I can drink.
Yeah.
I just know because I've done it so many times before.
And it's a piece of change that's so important. I've got a good friend of mine who's in rehab right now, and you know they're going to be coming out. And my strongest desire is if I could give them only one piece of advice, it'd be get yourself to a meeting every day, because then they're going to plug into a network of people that understand them, and they've got a good shot at recovery. It's just so important.
Meeting members make it.
Yeah, right.
No, meeting makers make it. Something like that.
Yeah, right. All right. We'll give you a quarter every time I hear that. All right. So the next one comes in, and we're wrapping up here, but a couple of bullets, and they both focus around help. First of all, you know, I must help the next, right? I need to embrace the give it away, right? So that means, to me, going to meetings, because my 30-second comment could be the differentiator to somebody coming back to a meeting or not coming back, somebody feeling embraced or not feeling embraced. You know, helping the next, you know, goes in the form of sponsorship, right? Helping, really working side by side with the next alcoholic, or just being a pseudo sponsor to somebody. And what I mean by that is, you know, you're just there, you're picking up the phone, you're checking in with them, you're just there as part of their journey. Got a call yesterday from a guy I probably haven't talked to in about 5 weeks, right? But we both have our phone numbers. So in between those 5 weeks, there was a couple of quick texts. Just simple, good morning. Just simple little things like that. We must, I must help the next struggling alcoholic.
Yeah, and we do this a meeting for newcomers. Mm-hmm. I should say, you kicked it off because of your passion for newcomers, and I certainly, jump on. And, sometimes just telling a newcomer, hey, man, good to see you.
Right.
That's just a wow, because that stuff doesn't happen in this world,
right. Right. And then on the same topic of help, continue to ask for help. This is not a one and done activity. When I said help, my moment of clarity that I had been done searching, I have to continue to ask for help on a daily basis. I'm not above the help that is available to me to help me in my program. If I'm down and out, I need to pick up that phone and call somebody, not for their mental sobriety, but for my mental sobriety.
Man, we're knocking out the list, huh?
Knocking out the list. So help is a big thing. We're almost, so embrace the fellowship would be another one. Again, I was isolated with no accountability. Meetings definitely help you on the course, but that's 1 hour out of 24 hours. And so when I talk about fellowship and embracing the fellowship, that means that, I'm going golfing with a buddy. I'm going fishing. I'm going to stop over at their house. We're going to or meet them at the coffee shop, have a cup of coffee. I'm really engaging in somebody else's life with them. I'm embracing the fellowship and all that comes with it. So that's...
Yeah, but let me jump in. So today, that is so easy today. But as a newcomer, right, as a loner that spent a year barely talking to anybody.
Sure.
Hey, bowling on Tuesday night.
It's a little scary.
I'm like, are you out of your mind?
Right.
Like, I'm not going bowling. I couldn't even talk to people on the phone.
Right.
I said to my sponsor, I said, I'm not calling you every day. He goes, no, I want you to call me every day. I'm like, dude, I can't do that. I have no idea what to say.
Mm-hmm.
He said, all right, I'll help you. Pick up the phone, dial me, and say, hi. He said, I think you can do that. I'm like, no, I can do that. And he said, let me. So it's amazing how our alcoholism is progressive, mm-hmm. and recovery is progressive. Mm-hmm. So I went from barely being able to say hi on the phone to my sponsor, mm-hmm. and now I'm sitting on a podcast with you for 18 minutes at a time.
Maybe 38 today. Let's move on to work the steps daily.
But the fellowship helps you. The fellowship helps
absolutely.
You. The fellowship will carry you when you don't know what to say.
There you go. Love it. Find a way to work the steps daily. And my takeaway for this was, and I learned this in a meeting, put it in your planner. What step am I focused on today? Put it in my planner. Put it in my Google Calendar. Put it on my task list. What step am I focused on today? Again, it takes my eye off the ball of me struggling, early on struggling with the alcohol use. Now it takes my eye off the ball of comparing myself to old drunk Mike all the time. That's easy. Look, I don't fall down. I don't lose my car. I don't puke myself. I don't piss myself anymore. But now working the steps daily, I compare myself, Mike today of Mike yesterday. I look at, am I better than Friday Mike? Am I better today than I was? That's what I mean by working the steps daily.
Yeah, so for those that are at that point, right, the best way to work the steps every day, mm-hmm. is to work them with another alcoholic. Help another alcoholic, mm-hmm. be a sponsor, and boy, you talk about working the steps every day. And, then if you get 3 sponsees, you're almost hourly working the steps, because not just are you on the phone with them, but you're thinking about them, and it just becomes part of the whole ecosystem of sobriety.
Right. Excellent. So we talked about spirituality, but let's talk about prayer for a second. And I love this because I was taught early on. It's not, I don't need to buy a book on how to pray. The fact of the matter is, I just need to do it. I need to do it, even if it doesn't feel right. Even if I'm not feeling it, I still need to do it. I still need to do it. So sometimes in the morning when I wake up, it's a really forced exercise because I hear it from everybody. I start my day on my knees. I end my day on my knees. Well, first of all, I got a bad knee. So let's start there, right? So I got an excuse that I can't get on my knees. But I can certainly sit there and fire up a prayer to a higher power. But sometimes I'm not feeling it. I guess my point is I learned in the rooms, and what's really helped me is do it even if you're not feeling it. It'll come back to you.
Well, if you use that C word, change. And if you look at prayer changes the prayer. And so, yeah.
Okay, so often in the...
and just to jump in, we have a whole podcast on prayer.
Yeah,
right?
prayer, right.
And we have a second part 2 coming. So, I mean, prayer is very important.
It's good stuff. So we often hear in the book about prayer meditation. You know, here's my take on meditation. And you brought it up in you've got sleep meditations you could do, but daily meditations, you know, I didn't even understand the concept when they come in. I thought, what is a meditation? What I've come to realize anyway for me is I can meditate on what I've learned in the rooms, right? So I'm a note taker, right? So every meeting I've been to, I take notes. I just jot down a phrase, or I jot down an idea or a quote from one of the readings, and then I typically turn that into a question, you know. So if the phrase is, you know, look for somebody else to serve, I'll ask the question, who am I looking, am I actively looking for somebody to serve today, right? And that becomes my I meditate on that because I'm pondering that on a daily basis. Does that make sense, Glenn? I take the content of what I'm learning and just kind of focused on that.
Right. So I look at meditation very similar. You know, I use meditation as a time, and I usually use soft music, you know, very early in the morning, but I use it as a time to process what I've heard, you know, what I've heard, and also to listen. So I look at prayer as speaking out to my higher power, right? And then I use meditation as a way to listen, right? Because if you pray and then just get busy with your day,
right,
there ain't no listening, right? There's no hearing back. And then it's so funny because people say, well, I don't hear from God. And I'm like, let's talk about your process. And it's, well, you know, I'm driving to work in the middle of rush hour and I'm praying, right? There's not too much being heard there.
Firing up, clear up the left lane, firing up a prayer. All right, so we're on a continued growth plan. You know, look, for me anyway, I've found great joy in continuing to grow, and not just program growth, but so there are 12-step recovery tools out there, like the 12 and 12, Drop the Rock, Sermon on the Mount, Joe and Charlie, Father Mountain. There's an AA. YouTube. If you just YouTube AA, I don't know what the results are, but it's going to be millions and millions of opportunities for you to go get additional content to put in to your head, because what you put in, you know, it's the old what is that, garbage in, garbage out, right? Good stuff in, good stuff out.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll jump in a little bit, and I'm probably going to get some dirty looks from you, but I mean, growth plan. Yeah, I get it. You know, a lot of this is focused on sobriety. I think for me, I have a lot of extra time in sobriety. Not now, because I have filled it up. I have filled that calendar up with purpose stuff. But just this morning, recently, you know, I've learned how to do some woodworking projects, right? So I've learned to grow and learn new things outside of AA. Just driving over here this morning, and don't forget, our engineer, our podcast barista, Brian, is also a rock star.
Yes, he is.
As I'm driving over here, I'm like, you know, one of the things I've always wanted to do was learn how to play the guitar. And I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to make the step. I'm going to get some lessons. But that's growth. Now, that's growth outside of AA, but that's part of the stuff that makes life cool.
Right.
You know, doing stuff like that.
I love it. No dirty looks for me, because...
All right, good.
Yeah, no dirty looks. All right, very good. So coming down to the around the bend here. That's right. I guess, you know, put positive in, right? So same thing that we just talked about a little bit. There's, pre-recovery Mike, I was constantly barraging my brain with bad media, right? Bad entertainment, a bad mix of data going into my brain. And, I've consciously changed that to listen to uplifting music, try and find media outlets that are reporting, just the facts, Jack. And I have to work to find them a little bit, but I certainly feel better about what folds in front of me, and so I just think focusing on the positives and putting good content into myself has helped me, and that was something I had to physically change.
Yeah, that's great. I have two quick examples on that. Two different guys I was working with. One guy calls me. He says, Glenn, something's wrong, man. All I think about all day is sex and lusting for women outside of my marriage. And I'm like, okay, let's break down your day, right? And it turns out he watches porn all day. I'm like, how in the world can you watch porn and not think about sex? That's driving your thought process. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I have a guy call me up. So stressed, man. The world's coming to an end. This world's stressing me out. I'm real panicked about this world. I'm like, well, let's talk about what you do all day. Well, he watches these news channels all day long, right. For 18 hours a day. All he's feeding is the chaos and all the agendas of everybody. And right. I'm like, dude, try turning that off. Right? And it's amazing. 4 days later, he goes, it's a different world.
Yeah, right.
It's amazing. So I totally get that.
Thank you so much. Put it into words very eloquently. So second to last, find an outlet to fill that hole in your soul, right? So find an outlet. We talk about the desire to have purpose. I guess for me, an outlet. You said you always wanted to play guitar. I always wanted to try and figure out how to get the thoughts out of my head onto paper in some kind of structured format, right? So it starts with journaling. So for me, I could just freestyle journal, and that gets me out of myself. That gives me an outlet. Art, or music. I'm inspired. If you learn how to play guitar, I'll learn how to play drums. We'll start a band. Look out, Beatles.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and I use kids. My kids, I have 4 kids, and they are one of my key outlets. I mean, the minute I commit to spending time and getting involved with them, just again, it gets me out of my head, gets me serving somebody else, and gets me interested in cool things.
That's great. So the last golf tip I got for you this morning is for myself as well as live like you love, and I guess for me everything is basis love, and so it's loving the guy in front of me at the checkout line in the Jewel who's small talking with the lady when obviously I've got an appointment that I need to get to. It's everybody I come in contact with, and it's my outlook on life. Live like you love, and that is one of the greatest changes for me that I had to put into play because I wasn't living like I loved. I was again in such a dark place. Now I live in a place of light, and that takes a proactive approach, and it's kind of the culmination of all these little golf tips. So can I review? Can I chunk down the list and then we'll close out?
Let's close it out.
All right, excellent. So organize. Focus on daily momentum. Continue your growth plan. Embrace the fellowship. Find a way to work the steps daily. Take time to meditate. Take time to pray and meditate. I guess that's the right order for that. Eat healthy. Stay healthy. Get some sleep. Seek professional support when available. Schedule your life around meetings. Serve till it hurts. Find a way to grow spiritually. Put positive in. Find an outlet for your for that hole in the soul. Help others. Ask for help. Search for purpose and live like you love.
Wow, man! I'll tell you what. It felt like we rushed through some of that, and we could have clearly done 19 sessions. clearly. But I thought that was very valuable. Certainly some topics that we've touched on before and we will touch on again. But dude, man, what a power hour on in the Sober Coffee shop. Thanks,
I love what they say. Take what you want, leave the rest.
Hey, man, if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Thanks, Glenn.
Take care, brother.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.